Hey guys, welcome back to Emlyn in the Mix, Season 2, Episode 4 of the podcast, and we're live on YouTube. We will work out the YouTube streaming thing in a future update because I want to be able to show you guys, obviously I want to be able to show you guys the screen so that you can see it on there. But for now, we're just going to have it live here. We have the live chat open on YouTube too. So if you join us today, feel free or welcome to hit us up with a text or a message. If there's something that you want to talk about on today's episode, feel free to do so. But without further ado, we're going to get stuck into the podcast. Bit of a shorter one today. Not as much news going around as the previous weeks, of course, with NAMM and the Believe in Music week, as it's now known, wrapping up. NAMM basically didn't happen. It was all sort of online. But there was a lot of the audio technology companies getting their news out there, and I'm still sort of covering stuff because there was a lot of stuff that actually got released, which is really cool to see. A lot of those technology or audio music technology companies keeping to the schedule of that NAMM week. Obviously they're already building up for it all year to release their products, but it was really good to see that they actually just kept that in. So let's get stuck into, I've got a bit of news here, so we'll have a look around and see what we've got in terms of kind of cool things that's happened in the last week. So if you're an NKS user, Native Instruments has just released an update. Korg has just released an update for their NKS support. Maybe Native Instruments helped them out. I don't know. It's probably all done through Korg. So Korg's actually got an update now. So if you have the Native Instruments controller, I'm looking down because I actually have one just here. You now have NKS support, which basically means that you can control all of your Korg software with the Native Instruments keyboard. So this is really good. If you're a Korg user, you will love this because it just gives you easier access to be able to tweak and modulate your different parameters and stuff in your software synthesizer. With the Korg, we're going to look at some of the Korg stuff today, but especially the Korg gadgets. I know there's not a lot going on there in terms of what you see on the surface. If you have the Korg gadget software, you'll understand what I mean. Like, it's usually you've only got like 4 parameters or knobs actually available, which you can actually have access to, but it's still going to allow you, because you have pages on the Native Instruments keyboards, so it's still going to allow you to be able to go in deeper if you need to change your sound or your effects or whatever. So that's a cool little thing to see happen there, and well done to Korg for getting that update. And the next bit of news, which is pretty cool, is that Native Instruments has just released, and this is cool for all Native Instruments software, and in fact, all audio technology software companies hopefully follow suit with this. But Native Instruments Tractor Pro update 3.4.1 now has Big Sur compatibility, and this is the best part, it supports that new Apple Silicon M1 chip. Now, there was a lot of, when that got released, and this always happens when Apple releases like a new technology, new chips or whatever, new hardware for that matter, there's always, within the software industry, there's always some compatibility issues. It's a given, basically. But to see this turn around quite quickly, because I think the M1 chip has now, it's been around for a few months, not long, so it's pretty quick for Native Instruments to pick up the ball and get that compatibility. Now, how rock solid it actually is, now that I don't 100% know. Obviously, we need some users to give us feedback on how that's actually going, but that just got released, and if you're a Tractor DJ user, you're going to be really super happy with that compatibility, especially if you've got one of those new computers, because they are blazing fast. So it's going to be great to see that actually all happening in action. Although Tractor is not a massively CPU intensive piece of software, and it doesn't take a lot to actually have that going. But anyway, nonetheless, they've done the update and it's going to work with those new computers. So that's exciting, and I'm hoping now, because of this release, I'm hoping more software developers especially all the native instrument stuff, if that gets updated to the M1 chip using the Silicon M1 and Big Sur, you're going to have blazing fast software. So that's really exciting. Next piece of news. Now, this got announced, I think it's going back a couple of weeks now. It was during the time of the Believe in Music Week. Universal Audio just dropped. We might have mentioned it briefly in last week's podcast, but they just dropped 3 brand new pieces of hardware in the form of effects pedals. And these look actually really nice. They're presented really nice, but I guess, it's not always about the look. These sound good too. I did have a listen to them on the Universal Audio live video, which you can still watch on their website. They have it all there. So essentially, this is Universal's audio foray into the guitar effects pedal section. So what is it? What do we have here? Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit off the website here. So we've got 60 years of analog tone at your feet. So introducing UA effects pedals, a landmark in classic reverb, delay, and modulation effects. So you're getting your 3 bulk standard sort of effects that you need for playing live. But seeing that it's Universal Audio, it's going to be good. So it's beautifully built upon powerful new dual process engines and UA's proven analog modeling expertise. UAFX delivers sonic authenticity far beyond other stomp boxes. So this is coming straight off the website here. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here to see the special features. So you got a powerful UAFX engine delivering the most sonically authentic classic reverb, delay, and modulation effects ever produced by a pedal. You've got simple live preset mode with silent switching, true buffering, bypass, and spillover trails. So that's good if you're playing live and you want to switch between your different presets and effects. You're not going to get like any sort of feedback or clicking noise. You've got additional downloadable guitar effects from the world-renowned UAD algorithm team. And, because it's UAD, it's going to be good. It's going to sound very authentic, very analog. Timeless UA analog design and beautiful, robust craftsmanship. Yes, it definitely has a very aesthetic and bold sort of look. Yeah, so we've got a golden reverberator, which is obviously your reverb, 3 distinct tube-driven spring reverb tanks, painstakingly selected from the 1960s American guitar amps, vintage German studio plate reverbs modeling from the iconic Record Plant Studio, an exact bit-for-bit late 1970s digital reverb algorithm from classic studio hardware. So that's your reverb. Now, Starlight is an echo pedal. So this is the next pedal. So you've got a stunning emulation of iconic tape echo units with new medium and old tape types. Legendary Bucket Brigade analog delay effects with the color texture and haze of the original hardware, and pristine studio digital delays with flexible and inspiring modulation. So that's your Starlight Echo Station. And then your last one, or the third one here, is the Astra modulation machine. So this is your modulation device, or pedal, I should say, impeccably modeled classic 1970s Japanese Bucket Brigade chorus vibrato effect. Authentic studio flanger doubler effect with vintage analog rack unit and classic inspiring tube amp, tremolo, and sine and square modes. So they're coming soon. They're not quite out or not released yet, but these 3 guitar effects pedals look awesome. And look, even if you're a keyboard player or even you play synths live on stage, these will be your perfect little pedals for going out and playing live. And I'm pretty excited about that. I'm a pretty big Universal Audio user. I have the Apollo X6 as my main audio hardware. And I've also got a mic pre of theirs, which is the LA. I'm looking down here if you're watching YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera all the time. But I've got the LA 610 MK2 from Universal Audio, which is a microphone, basically just a microphone preamp, which actually my beautiful vocal tones are talking through right now for the pleasure of your ears. So thank you to Universal Audio for, basically making me sound good. All right, so that's going to wrap up our news. And I actually ended up rambling on so much more than I thought from those 3 little news products there. Now, if you've just joined me on the live video we've got going here, so yes, we do a podcast, but I'm doing it live these days. Feel free to send through a chat. Love to hear what you're up to or what you want to hear about from this week. Again, as I stated at the start of this podcast, bit of a quieter week in the world of music technology, audio technology, but that's fine. That's what we live for, and of course, that's what we enjoy. So I'm going to just wrap up the podcast now, basically with a little demo from one of my favorite pieces of software in the last year, although it is a little bit older than a year now. And it comes to us from our friends, of course, at Korg, which we've already spoken about today. And probably one of my favorite pieces of software updates, I should say, because although this is the Korg Wave Station is what we're going to be looking at right now. But the Korg Wave Station, I think software form came out at least, could be 13 or 14 years, so correct me if I'm wrong. This guy, amazing as a software, and they recently did an update. I believe it was last year, or it might have just been the end of 2019, where they updated the GUI. Now, unfortunately, can't see it on the YouTube channel, YouTube video right now, but you'll be able to hear it. So I've got the Korg Wave Station up now. You can essentially, it's got a vector-based GUI, which means you can resize it, make it really big, which is really cool. I think I can just hold the handles here. Oh, no, I have to go through utility. That's right. And then screen size, extended. That's as big as I go. So it's pretty big, though. It takes up more than a quarter of my screen. But again, this is not about how it looks. Of course, this is how it sounds. So I'm going to play back some of the Wave Station for you here, and we'll just play some of the presets. Now, for those of you that don't know what the Wave Station actually is, it's an advanced vector synthesis wave sequencing synthesizer, soft synth. And that probably just means absolute jargon to the majority of you. But essentially, from my understanding, it layers wavetable synthesis on top of each other. So you basically can blend those, and essentially you can change the position of those waves on top of each other and get some really interesting results. So you sort of essentially you're blending, like, more or less, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, 4 different sounds at once. So I'm going to play some of it back now and you should be able to hear it. So this one's called Snake Charmer, and you can just hear straight off the bat. I'm going to turn it up a little bit for you guys on YouTube because I don't think the audio is coming through the camera there. Even if I just play one note, and on the podcast you'll be able to hear this very well, you've got some interesting sort of wave sequencing going on there, going through different little waves. Now we do have the ability to do a preview here, so I'm going to try. I don't know how this will sound, this particular preset, with an arpeggio preview. Let's have a listen. All right, so that's one of the preset previews there where it can just play for me rather than me playing. But yeah, essentially what the Wave Station is doing is it's going through multiple waves, as you can hear, and then you can also blend the waves, as I stated before. I want to check out this preset here. Cat's Eyes sounds good. It just allows for some really nice textures. That's a bit of a quiet preset. Let's see if we can find something else. Spectra. And a lot of these sounds were used in like 80s and a lot of 90s hits as well, more so late 80s, but the Wave Station was used heavily in the early 90s as it was one of the top tier synthesizers at the time. Just really nice. And let's have a look at Alien Dreams. What is this? I actually remember now, there was a person that came to my school and they basically demoed one of these, and our minds were blown, because what this synthesizer can reproduce is essentially all those classic TV shows, movies, all of those sort of dramatic sounds. This guy can produce drones. It can produce all sorts of really dark tones, and it's because it's utilizing a really brand new technology at the time, which was essentially just sampling and sort of combining all the different sounds. But yeah, this is definitely, and the reason why I'm featuring it on the podcast, is one of my favorite pieces of software synthesis. You can get this on the iPad as well, but check it out. It's the Korg Wave Station. I'm not going to go bore you going through all the presets here. I just wanted to give you a little taste. One of my favorite software synthesizers at the moment. I don't know why I'm saying software, the whole word, but it is one of my favorite. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. That is going to have to be me for today. Hope it was informative. Do leave me some feedback on the podcast and the video that we're simultaneously streaming. Again, we will work out how to get this live setup working, because I want to be able to share my screen with you guys and the audio as well through the online streaming service here. But until next time, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast today, and we'll be back with another one next week. All right, stay tuned for that, guys. Boom, bye.